Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Project Purpose Podcast. I am your host, Sheryll. And today, once again, we are blessed with our psychologist. She is not just a clinical, but also a forensic
Mhm.
psychologist and also an entrepreneur, right? She's a business owner, been a business owner for since she was seven. So she's got a whole lot of knowledge to share with us today. And today we're talking about imposter syndrome in entrepreneurship. So I'm glad that we have her to share her expertise with us. This is Dawn Smith, Mrs. Dawn Smith. Dawn, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am doing very well, and thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here. So every time I see an invitation from you, I'm so excited.
Awesome. Well, as you know, as you can tell, we love having you on here, and you are definitely, a big part of the pillar of this
Mhm.
podcast. For those of you who are just joining us, this podcast is all about, the ambitious woman and man that is seeking clarity and confidence as they move on with their journey to creating that ideal life. Right. So, again,
Mhm.
as I mentioned, today we're talking about imposter syndrome and particularly in entrepreneurship. What exactly is it? How do we get it? And most
Mhm.
importantly, how do we get rid of it or
Rid of it.
minimize it? Right. So, Dawn, let's go ahead and get right into it. First and foremost, what is imposter syndrome?
All right, thank you, Sheryl. So, imposter syndrome is a pattern. It's a psychological pattern where successful people sometimes feel like they're fraud, they're not worthy of the achievement that they have accomplished. So that's to break it down in a nutshell what it is. I want to point out that it is not a psychological disorder. So it's not in the DSM as a disorder, but it is a psychological pattern that we most times experience in high achievers, to believe it or not.
Yes, as a matter of fact, isn't it most often the successful people that feels this way because they have all their accolades, all their accomplishments, but for whatever reason, and we'll dive into that further,
Mhm.
they feel like they're a fraud and they are not worthy of whatever compliments or praises that they might receive. They are actually oftentimes fearful that they'll be exposed as a fraud, even though they are an expert.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, in your experience as a psychologist, why do you think so many entrepreneurs, again, like we just mentioned, even the successful ones, feel like they don't belong or that they aren't good enough?
I think a lot of it comes from childhood upbringing. Um, in one of our, I think when we did the self worth series, we spoke about childhood traumas and attachment styles. And for example, if you are a child that is raised and you're always being compared to your siblings, the parent is always comparing you, or your brother's always doing, and you feel less than. You grow up with that. It impairs how you see yourself. Again, if you grew up in a family where if you don't get A's, if you don't get all A's and you're perfect, then you're put down or you're treated wrongly for that, then that creates imbalance in the brain also. And so we see that no matter how hard you work, and even if you have all the right training and accolades, because of the things that happened earlier in childhood, you still feel like, oh, I'm not deserving of this. I'm probably just a fraud. There are two people that I want to point out that suffered from imposter syndrome that we all know. Sigmund Freud. I mean, look how amazing he is, right? And then Maya Angelou. Look at how many books Angelou wrote and still felt as though, oh, I probably just got lucky,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
diminishing her brilliance, right? And so, from the
Who
things
was the
that are
first one?
Sigmund Freud,
Who's that?
psychologist, genius.
Oh, okay.
Right, genius. I mean, most of the theories, cognitive theories, most of the theories that we study in psychology and education came from Sigmund Freud.
Oh,
But
wow.
these are people who also suffered from imposter syndrome. And so there is no one study that pinpoints to this. As a matter of fact, the name came about back in the 70s, by a psychologist. Oh boy, I think I wrote her name down somewhere. I will get back to it. I don't remember, but she started seeing that in her students, like students who had high grades did not feel as if they were worthy of a space in the university. And so she saw the trend. They felt like, oh, maybe I just got lucky, or maybe somebody dropped out and I got pushed in. And then she recognized that, wait a minute, this was not just happening to her students, it was also happening with clients. So there were many clients who were successful people, but still felt like they were frauds and they didn't deserve the the success or the accomplishments that they have had.
Yeah, wow. That's so incredible, to really get down to the root cause of this. And surprisingly, it's not really something that's talked about a lot, right? Like,
No,
is
no.
yeah, imposter syndrome. People are like, what is that? It sounds really foreign.
Yeah.
But it's good to see, um, you know, individuals, psychologists like yourself, that is actually bringing it to awareness and helping individuals to overcome it. Because I believe, right, and you can correct me, some of these root causes, which you already mentioned, is the fear of failure. You also mentioned the comparison trap,
Right,
being
right.
even from a young person. What about, do you see that in career as well, in young adults going out into career? Do you see that comparison where they, where, or even in your student? I know, as a business owner running your student teaching, do you see
Mhm.
where they compare
Yes.
grades or maybe upbringing? What's the root cause?
So even if the students compare themselves and feel like they're not worthy, that didn't start in the classroom. It started before they got to the classroom, right?
Right, right.
So again, if we backtrack to even the parent comparing the siblings, comparing the children, you grow up no matter how hard you work, always feeling like, well, maybe I'm not worthy. Or if it is that you're always being criticized, no matter how good the grade is, you're always being criticized, then you're always going to have that feeling unless it is dealt with, unless it is talked about, like what we're doing right now, right? It is talked about, and we actually look for a resolve for this. So even though I see it in my students, it didn't start with it being in the classroom. It starts with the upbringing. And remember, that your upbringing also affects your attachment style, right? Are you secure in who you are? Or are you fearful? Are you avoidant? And these are some of the things that can lead to imposter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, again, Sheryl, do you realize how important parenting is? Absolutely important, because the experiences that a child is having from birth to, let's say, about 12, it's transforming them and creating the adult that they are becoming.
Yes. And I want to stay there a little bit. I
Mhm.
think, and you can correct me, but when you're saying parenting, I believe it's not just the home per se, but it's also the environment, the community, because someone might be getting amazing love and care for in the home. But what if you're going to school? We've heard crazy stories of this where people says the teacher will tell them, "Oh, you're not going to be anything good. Oh, you think
Mhm.
you're this, you think you're that. No, you're not." And as you mentioned, in that young age, you're believing that, and eventually developed into the adult that you become. Can you
Sheryl,
explain?
I really love being on your podcast. Not because you're my sister, but because you're brilliant. And the things that are coming to you are things that really need to be brought to the forefront. So I want to say thank you for that. Now, let me use my own story where that is concerned. In grade one, the first day of grade one,
Which is how old? Five,
five.
four,
For
or
me,
something.
it was five. Now it's six, but for me, it was 5 years old. And this is grade one, and I'm 50 years old, and I'm remembering this story so vivid. There was a little book that you had to read, and it says, the clock says cock a doodle doo. I could not roll the L's, so I couldn't say the doodle. I got whipped in front of everybody the first day of school. Okay?
Oh,
First day of school. So the grade one teacher, her daughter, her granddaughter was also in the class. And learning everyone becoming friends, this granddaughter wanted to become a medical doctor. You know, as a children, you talk about what you want to be, what you want to be. I wanted to be a medical doctor. But did you know? Well, later on, I figured out that that was what it was. Did you know that because of that beating that day and the way it was done and the way I felt put down, I felt I was not good enough to be a medical doctor. So years passed, and my gynecologist died, and they um, transferred my file to another gynecologist. Did you know when I walked in to that office, there was a young lady, the
wow.
granddaughter. She's a medical doctor. Hear how this doesn't even phase her because she doesn't know. So I walked in, I saw her, and instead of saying hi, you actually became a doctor. I went straight back to grade one. Has that held me back many times? Yes. I think it's one of the reasons why I did psychology and not psychiatry, because psychiatry is a
Is a
medical doctor.
doctor.
It's a
Correct.
medical doctor.
Correct.
So teachers have the ability to make or break a child. And, I lecture in a teaching program, and this is the one thing that I spend a lot of time talking about is motivation, student motivation. Now, regardless of what the background or the home is for a child, there's a level of respect that a child has for a teacher. And if teacher said it's black, there's no sense in mommy telling you that it's brown because teacher said it's black. And so my encouragement to teachers is always, here is an opportunity to help a child to become their very best. We can't stress that enough. Now, let me just make it clear. I'm not blaming this lady for not becoming a medical doctor, but it is the experience that when I became a psychologist and having to study assessments and having to study childhood traumas, that I recognize, oh my God, this is why I keep thinking, oh no, I'm not gonna be good at that. I'm not gonna remember those terms. I'm not, and I shied away. I shied away.
Yeah. Wow. This is so powerful. This is so powerful that I make a note that we need to do another segment with just that. I did not know this story. And so this is an example, as you mentioned, that sometimes these podcasts brings out the best in people, and it is obviously doing that in you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
And kudos to you, because even though you did not become the medical doctor, you are such an impact in your community. So whatever you would choose to do, you pushed past that childhood trauma, because
Yeah.
that's really what that was and is.
It is, yes.
And yes, I totally believe that, as you mentioned, and we're going to move on, but as you mentioned, teachers play such an amazing role. They are our first mentors and idols outside of the
Yes.
home, because we're all used to mommy and daddy
Yeah.
loving on us
Yes.
even when
Yes.
we know that we were wrong, right? You know, you as a child you messed up and mommy and daddy still love you. So in essence you love them back. You don't necessarily respect them, at least not yet as a child,
Right.
you know.
Right.
You
Right.
respect the pastor. That's another thing why so many people have this amazing respect for pastors,
Mm-hmm.
right? They see them as leaders, and the same
Yep.
thing for teachers. They see them as leaders. And I know, I'm telling you, even just recently we went to this event, our leadership event, and honestly, Dawn, it was about 3 or 4 people that went on stage, talked about their different experiences in how they achieve success compared to, in spite of what people had said to them. And
Right. Right.
the common denominator was what a teacher had said to them. My teacher said I would be no good.
Mm-hmm.
My teacher said I'll never graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And for many years, they carry that with them. And then they
Mm-hmm.
eventually find the strength and the courage. We talked about this on the last episode, finding
Yeah.
the courage to move forward in spite of fear so
Right.
that you can
Right.
become the ideal person that God created you to be. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't remember that. Thinking about it now makes me a little emotional, but
Yeah.
we're grateful. We're grateful for
Yeah.
platforms like these.
Yes, awesome. And so, guys, again, you are listening to Project Purpose podcast, and we talk about, gaining clarity. We talk about finding confidence. We talk about breaking away from fear, right?
Mhm.
And finding courage to move forward and creating your ideal life, not what someone wants it to be, not what society said that it should be, not even what your parents said it should be, but what brings you true value and what is aligned with your philosophies, right?
Um,
So make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you share it, because there could be so many other individuals that have stories similar to what Don shared with us a while ago. And it's good to talk about it so that we can be healed from it.
yes. Yes.
Also
Yes.
later in the show we're going to talk about how you can even go further in finding professional help, right? As we
Mhm.
mentioned, Dawn is a psychologist, and she does the very same thing that I'm doing right now, just not on a podcast but face to face or Zoom or over a video. She is the expert in helping you to find strength, find yourself, become aware, and become the best version of you. So we'll talk about that later on, and we'll make sure that you check out the notes that will be in this episode of the podcast as well, so you'll know how to get professional help. But let's go ahead and move forward, Dawn. How does imposter syndrome sabotage business decisions? Right, we're talking about the entrepreneurship side of it. How does it sabotage business decisions or anything in business? How does it affect it?
Well, it's several different ways. I think the first one is the perfectionist or the overworker or the overachiever. So you work yourself into burnout because you don't think you're worthy. So you continue to work and work and work and work. And so that's one of the things that I see. And sometimes people avoid. I think I avoid medicine.
The
That's
avoidance
another
of it,
way, right? That's
that
another
you
way
sabotage yourself.
to sabotage yourself because I avoid it. You know, it reduces your confidence. Just think about it. If you feel you're a fraud, chances are you're probably going to try to back down and not be your best or walk in the brilliance that you truly, truly have. It took a while for me to really accept that, Dawn, it's okay to be brilliant. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to have knowledge in many different areas, where imposter syndrome is concerned for me also, I feel that because I study so wide, I feel that persons may not take me seriously in different areas. And you hear the phrase, jack of all trade and master of none. And and so sometimes I don't necessarily talk about all the things that I can do because I fear that persons might just see it as that, oh, she does so many things, that means she's not good at any. And that's not the truth. That is so not the truth. You put me in a platform like this, and knowledge come from places that I never even knew existed. You put me around a pulpit to preach the word of God, and it's going to come forth with clarity. You put me in a classroom, and whether I'm teaching on, in a forensic program or in a social work program or in beauty courses or entrepreneurship, I am going to deliver because God has blessed me with all those abilities. But to be honest, Sheryll, I shy away many times from speaking on large platforms because in my head, am I good enough? What if I'm not good enough? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you again for sharing. Wow, this is so powerful. And, I was going to ask, I guess this is a good time, does everyone at some point in their life experience imposter syndrome? And I know the answer to that is yes,
Yeah.
because I have my share of stories. And the truth be told, if many of us look at where we are in life, in the capacity of your career and your accomplishments, right, we know that that doesn't necessarily define you, that's just one area of your life. But nevertheless, when you look at those, and if when you are not at 100%, so to speak, or maybe 90, I don't think anyone will ever reach 100%, there's always room for growth.
Right.
But the reason why we haven't is because at some point in our lives, we all go through that period of imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Just what you're mentioning, am I good enough? I know for me personally, I will learn a new skill, right? And I am a firm believer that as you learn, you teach. But
Correct.
sometimes when I'm ready to teach and I really study and I'm ready to teach, that imposter syndrome raises its head, and it's like, didn't you just learn this
Yeah.
last month?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How come you're an expert? What are you
Yeah.
talking about being a coach? You're not a coach, because again, we tend to put certain timeline to it, right? Oh, have you been doing that for 5 years, for 10 years, you know? And as you mentioned, you can have so many different skill sets. So you're right. In businesses, especially, we often make decisions based on imposter syndrome. We bring ourselves down. You and I also talked about it just recently, about
Yes.
even
The
your
cost.
value, right?
Yes.
What
Yes.
you
Yes.
charge people for your services. You wonder, right? The negative voice is saying, who am I to charge that much? Am I really worthy? Am I really bringing that value? And you know how I know this is real? Because I don't know if you can relate to this, but I, like many others, will see all these marketing commercials online, social media,
Mhm.
um, promising you the world of good. And if you just click and if you just buy it, it's going to do this and it's going to do that. And they market it so amazing, which, side note, I give them credit for that because it's
Mhm.
good marketing.
Mhm.
Because marketing is all about taking action. Did the
Right.
person click? And they make me click and I buy. And then when I get the product, I am so disappointed in what it is that they're offering. The stuff, I already know it. It,
Yeah.
it serves
Yeah.
me no purpose.
Yeah. I'll
So
share something
let
with
me just
you.
say, who is that
Mhm.
person? What makes them believe that they have this amazing thing to offer me, which it
Mhm.
wasn't? And
Mhm.
then I, who have something amazing to offer,
Is afraid.
don't. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no. I am so glad that you mentioned that. When I started Demery Institute, I remember when I now moved into a space and I'm paying quote unquote big rent for the space. I was charging at the time $22,500 in Jamaican money, which at the time is probably about 150 US dollars for the course, which runs for 8 weeks. I got a call from a gentleman who had a nursing school that I have done some projects with over the years. And he said to me, I looked at your programs and I look at your cost. And he says to me, why are you charging so cheap? So I said, I don't understand. People are still complaining that they can't afford it. He says this to me, Dawn, for what you offer and the cost, they don't correlate. People are going to look at what you charge and think you're no good because your cost is too cheap. And I loved that. Did you know I decided that I was going to step out on a limb? We tripled, not doubled, tripled the cost in the first 3 months. The business multiplied by four.
Because people still show up. People show up, people buy.
People show up more.
Yeah.
So it's almost like if you buy a shoe, if the shoe is $300 compared to $10, obviously the one for $300 has to be better. And it put a certain status on the one for $300. My shoe costs $300. I missed all of that. And I think that's where marketing people, they know the psychology of buying, right? And so when he said that to me, I didn't think that I was worth or my skills was worth the money that he was telling me to charge. And so many people fall trap to that because we undervalue ourselves because of the imposter syndrome. Am I worth it? Nobody's gonna pay me that. Oh, people probably think, I'm a fraud, I don't deserve it, etc., etc.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And, there's a balance, between those prices. And there are
Yes,
times when
obviously.
you do see where some of them are really, and again, I guess it's just a perception. One person might think it's too much, while another person may think it's just right. But nevertheless, oftentimes business owners like us, entrepreneurs, fall into that imposter syndrome and charges less than the value that we're given. And you are absolutely correct. There is a psychology to marketing, there is a psychology to sale and to
Yes.
get the consumer to buy. And it is all about the perception. You
Hmm.
and I know we've talked about this off camera. We are a firm believer in, you know, um, over promise and under promise and over deliver.
Deliver.
Under
Yes.
promise, over deliver, right?
Yes. Yes.
We talked about this even with your counseling, and as you're doing your retreat and stuff like that. We always make sure that, like, like the commercial, but wait, there's more, right? To make sure that we're doing amazing value, but at the same time, business owners, if you're listening to this, do you believe that you're charging too little for the service that you're giving? And if you are, check your thoughts and your beliefs when it comes to imposter syndrome. See what the underlying issue could be. So, Dawn, I just want to recap. We talked about imposter syndrome. You mentioned that it is where we doubt our accomplishments and where we have fear of being exposed as being a fraud, even though we are well capable in
Mhm.
that field. Now, I also want to go over some key characteristics of the imposter syndrome. You've already covered some of them. You talked about self doubt,
Mhm.
right, where we doubt our abilities, even though we're well capable. And you also did mention the attributing the success to external factors, such as where they would say, "Oh no, it's not me. That was just luck," or "Oh, someone dropped out and I got put in," instead of seeing it that it is because of their skills and their talent, why they're where they are. And another characteristic is the fear of failure. Let's talk about that a little bit more. You know, this, you also mentioned this really, where it leads to overworking yourself. But there's two things I want you to cover. It also leads to avoiding challenging situations, such as
Right.
maybe in a career, right, where you could
Mhm.
advance to a certain level, but you stay stuck because you somehow don't believe you can. So let's talk about avoiding challenging situations, but also procrastination
Yeah.
is another characteristic because sometimes we might not take action at all. Let's talk about it.
Wow, this is so good, Sheryl. So this is so good, man. We need to go. We need to have a studio. We need to have a studio audience, for these kind
To
of
get
conversations.
questions and stuff. Yes,
Right,
yes.
right. But where the avoidance is concerned, is avoiding opportunities. So, for example, if there's a big promotion at work, like you said, they will avoid applying for it because, again, they feel I'm not good for that. Speaking gigs, for me, when it's a panel and I hear that there's going to be medical doctors and PhD doctors, I find myself quickly declining a lot of times. And when you check it out, my knowledge is so much more than a lot of these people have because they just study the one thing. Whereas I come with so much experiences that I can speak more eloquently on these topics. So I have to continuously check myself where that is concerned. Sometimes it's leadership roles, you know, and the fear of, but what if, but what if I'm not good enough, or what if I let somebody down, what if I mess this up, the what if. And so I think we had a podcast already that we talk about fear of success and fear of
Overcoming
failure.
fear. Correct.
Right,
Right.
right, the fear of failure. But I'll tell you this: success in my head is a combination of all the times you have failed. That's
It
that
sure
that is
is. Let's say that again, Don.
oh man.
Success is a
A
combination.
combination of all the times that I personally have failed. Because guess what happened? Um, you're not starting back from scratch. You're starting back from experience. So, and we need to understand that you need failure. You need failure. What's that lady that writes Harry Potter? Her. Apple, whatever.
Yes.
Her. She was asked to speak at a commencement. I forgot what university it was. I swear I read too much. But anyway, her commencement speech was titled The Fringe Benefits of Failure. Sheryl, go look that speech up.
J.R. Rowling. J
Yes,
J K J K J K
J.K.
Rowling.
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling
J.K.
is the
Rowling,
author of Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Listen to her story. Sheryl, that lady was writing on napkins in restaurants, and everybody rejected her stuff, But she kept going, right? Now, the reason she could so eloquently speak on the fringe benefits of failure is because she has failed so many times. So let's stay here for a little bit if we can. When you think about fringe benefits, what do you think of? Good things, not true.
Yes, extra perks.
Oh, some people
I
are
I
not
definitely want to see what it is. Like I want to see, am I missing anything from this benefit?
right. Right. So the fringe benefits, most people are not accepting a job unless the fringe benefits are great.
Correct.
So how do you put fringe benefits in the same statement with the word
Failure.
failure? And so of course I read the speech and I went researching. Let me tell you something. When you fail, it pushes you to go research some more and to go study your area some more, right? So what it does, it actually prepares you to become better. So most of the time we don't become better because we are afraid to fail. So we spend so much time, um, well, most of the time, not even starting, not taking that action because we're afraid that, well, I'm not worthy of it, I'm not good enough, you know. But I'm here to tell somebody, if I should ever start talking about how many times I have failed and to talk about all my failures, this podcast would go on for days, weeks, probably even years, right? So fear is false evidence appearing real. Embrace, embrace it, embrace it because it is only going to help you to grow. Failure has pushed me to learn and develop more. It was failure that caused me to start looking at finance better because I had an employee who stole when we did all the audit. It was over $4 million. She did it over a 2 year period. And I remember when I went to the police station, the first one said, "Oh, for that level of money, you have to go to the fraud squad. That's where you have to report that." So I went to the fraud squad. You know what the man said to me? "How you sit down and let somebody steal $4 million from you?" And I had two options. I could have gotten insulted, right? Because I'm here to report, and who are you to say that to me? But I chose not to get insulted. I sat there and I processed what this man was saying to me. First of all, I obviously did not recognize that I was running such a big business. That was my first mistake because I was not capable in my head. I was not capable of becoming a big company. So being a micro enterprise was okay for me. So even when the business was growing, I didn't grow with it, right? I did not have an accounting software. I was still using Excel to log millions of dollars. So it was that failure, Sheryll, that pushed me towards studying finance for myself. I must have read every book that has been written on money and money management and such forth.
Yeah.
So let us move away from thinking that we're not good enough
Yeah.
to thinking I am good enough. So, what skills do I need to ensure that I am able to walk in that success? Because getting there and staying there are two different things, and maybe that's like a whole nother podcast right there.
Yes, yes, yeah. No, great story. Again, thank you for sharing, and definitely a great example of how we do avoid challenging situations. Like you mentioned, unconsciously, you kept just seeing your business as a micro business, so you were not prepared to run
Mhm,
it as a macro business, as a big business.
mhm.
Otherwise, you would have put the right tools and
In
resources
place, yeah,
in place.
yeah.
So let's talk about the opposite of that, which is, well, not necessarily the opposite, but another key area, which is the procrastination in life, whether it's in your career, starting a business, because of, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
What can you say about
Well,
that?
procrastination goes a little bit deeper than imposter syndrome. So, whereas imposter syndrome is not a diagnosed disorder, um, just procrastinating to do things can be linked to diagnosed disorders like ADD and ADHD. So when persons have severe procrastination, then you really need to be assessed to see if it's something deeper than just, oh, I don't feel like doing this right now. There's so many people that
Yeah,
sabotage, self sabotage life
yeah, yeah,
because they procrastinate and
yeah.
procrastinate over little things that's not
Right,
taking any amount of energy to
right,
get done. So that's when
right.
I say, you know what? Let's dig a little bit deeper
What's the
with this.
deeper
Right,
underlining? Yeah.
right,
No,
right,
you're
right.
absolutely right. Procrastination, man, is a killer.
It is a
It's
killer.
a killer. Um, from this point of view, though, when I think of procrastination as relating to imposter syndrome, I think of maybe even gifted. individuals that may not apply to, for example, like apply to college.
Right.
They won't take the time. They may have the application, right? They have
Mhm.
the paperwork. The teacher might even refer them, because again, and we want to point this out, in the beginning we did talk about, teachers and their involvement. We also want to say that we know that they're amazing teachers. we,
Oh,
we
of
know that they're
course.
incredible teachers that speak life into kids, right? We
Yes.
know there are a few that don't, but the majority of them do. So we want to give accolades and kudos to teachers. We know you have an amazing job to do. So in this case, teachers might tell you, "Oh, Dawn, that's great. You should apply for that college. I think you will do great." And you're like, "You believe that?" And she's like, "Yes, here's the paperwork. Take it home, read it over, just go online." And that could be just sitting on your desk for months. And it's not because you're not qualified, but it could be something like, "Will I ever go to college?" Especially if, let's just say, you're breaking generation. You're going to be the first one to go to college. You're looking back in life and say, yes, and say, "Oh, no one has been to college before in my family. Who am I
Yes.
to think
Yes.
that I
Yes.
can go to college?" So that's, when I
Yes.
think
Yes.
about it, that's where I'm coming from. But you're absolutely right. As a psychologist, I know that you're aware that the whole characteristics and it's like procrastination is like a disease in itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
so that's for another podcast.
Yes.
So to move forward, and to wrap this up pretty soon, um, we did cover this already, but I want to just summarize it. You did talk about the causes. So first, we talk about what imposter syndrome is. We talk about the characteristics of imposter syndromes. You have shared some amazing examples and stories with us, Dawn, regarding imposter syndromes. And I believe we have also covered the causes
Yes,
of
right.
imposter syndrome. You talked about the early childhood experiences.
Mhm.
What about social and cultural factors? And before you do it, I want to give an example. When I think of this, here's where I go. Do you know how it's known for, like, Caribbean people like ourselves to be able to go to college? And even, for example, the Indian culture,
Mhm.
a
They're
lot of them
bright.
believe that they should be doctors or
Yes.
scientists.
Mhm.
Whereas the American culture is about a business owner. You have an idea. There's no need for college. Just that's that culture. Just go expand your skill. How do you believe that social and cultural experiences and factors contribute to imposter syndrome, or does it?
Well, it does. It does in some sense, and then again, it doesn't for some people. I think yesterday on the live we were talking about two different brothers, two different one situation, two different
Correct. But
brothers, two different
how they perceive it.
experiences, how they perceive it. So again, if and I'm going back to childhood experience. So I grew up in a home where though we were poor, mommy has always told me that whatever I want to do, I could do it. I believe that. And in high school, there were teachers who believed that I was going to do something amazing. Sheryll, I was farm monitor for my enter St. Catherine High School. I was farm monitor for grade 7, straight up until I'm like, no man, somebody give me a break. Give me a break because teachers believed that I was a leader and I needed to do this. And
Yes.
so that culture of having teachers telling me that I can do and having my mom always telling me that I can do was instilled in me. All right. So even when I went to America and everything was free as in the sense that free thinking and nobody's forcing you and thinking that, oh, if you don't go to college, you can't do good. I still held on to the mindset that I wanted to do X, Y, and Z. And I could have done because I was already socialized that way. right?
Right,
So when
right.
you take somebody who they're always criticized as a child, or no matter what they do was not good enough for the parent, or the parent said unless you become this, you're not worthy, or stuff like that. The external factors, socialization and culture, is going to affect them differently than somebody who understands that, oh, I could do whatever I set my mind to.
Correct, correct. Yes, thank you. And that's a perfect example. And that's actually where I was going. See, that's why you're the psychologist. Because you're absolutely right. How we are brought up, our childhood experiences, whether it's in a culture that allows you to be free and just follow your dreams,
Right.
or a culture that follows, the caste system, so to speak, the
Mhm.
being that influential person, being that educated person, will impact your adulthood, because you will make decisions based on those factors. So thank you for sharing that. So
You're
the final
welcome.
segment in this area is impacts, right? This is where you're putting on your psychologist hat now even more. Let's talk about imposter syndromes as it lead to things like anxiety or depression or even low self-esteem.
Low self-esteem a lot, and definitely anxiety and depression. Now, let me just clear this up that imposter syndrome is not a cause of
Depression,
anxiety
or
or
right,
depression.
right,
However, it can lead to anxiety and depression. So
right.
let's talk about that a little bit. Okay. So let's say I'll use me. Let's say I feel um, I'm not good enough to become a medical doctor. I'm not bright enough. So there's no sense in even trying. And then I might see my friends becoming medical doctors and they're doing well. That in itself can lead me to low self-esteem, and that can even, the worries of it can lead me to become very anxious, and also lead to depression. All right. So the procrastination part that you spoke about earlier, when you see life leaving you behind, you almost now feel worthless, right? You feel worthless. And then if we're
Yeah.
not careful, all of that can lead to anxiety and depression. And this is why, Sheryll, I needed to understand how important it is for you to continue having these conversations, because many persons do not acknowledge that something is actually going on with them. And also, many persons will not seek the professional help. It was self development. It was through self development that I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I need help with some things. It was studying psychology that brought these things to the forefront when I had to do my own self assessment and recognize that I have things that I need to talk about. And I'm so happy that psychology teaches that every therapist has to have a therapist. So before I started practicing, I had to go through 20 hours of personal therapy before I could graduate college, right? So it was through therapy that I get to do a lot of self discoveries that has helped me to be where I am right now as an individual whole and able to speak on these matters. And so, to anyone who is listening, don't let it get to the place where you become anxious and you become depressed. If you see these things happening, seek professional help, because it does help. It
Yes.
does help.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much. And again, guys, make sure that you check out the notes that are listed in this episode. If you are someone need to move forward to the next step, which is professional help, the information will be available to you. So thank you, Dawn. I know we also already talked about how that imposter syndrome hinder career advancement. So we're not going to go over that again. But the
Mhm.
final area I want to talk about here before we move forward is imposter syndrome in relationships.
Tips.
It also have impacts because it can struggle. You can have struggle in accepting affections because sometimes you may feel like you're not worthy. So
Worthy.
let's talk about the impact in relationships as it leads to imposter syndrome.
So I'm working with someone right now as we speak, female. And I know that imposter syndrome is mostly shown in female. It's in everybody, but the studies started out with women because it was women that they were first seeing this with. And the young lady said to me, Miss Dawn, I don't even buy new clothes though I can afford it. I don't change my car though I can afford it. And we're talking about all the things she don't do. And when I did her assessment, growing up, she was not given new things. So um, she had to wait until her sisters or her cousin give her their hand me down. Um, she had to wait until she get the leftover or the what left, what you didn't want, or stuff like that. The only thing she got new was every year she would get new pencils and pens and new exercise book. Her house is full of pens and pencils and journals that she never used or don't even need to use because she feels that's what she's worthy of. So when I talk to her about doing a new degree or doing me, I don't. Again, do you see how your childhood affect how you show up in life?
Yes.
That's just one example. Listen to
Yes.
this. Listen to this. Um, Life is a vibration. It's all energy is. If you feel you are unworthy of love, that's exactly what you are going to attract in your life. Somebody that doesn't give you love. Because that's what you feel. That's what you attracted. Sometimes we end up in surroundings where because you don't feel you're worthy of something, you can't accept. I can't accept that. I can't accept that gift. You don't need to do this for me. You don't need to. And where's all of that coming from? How the experiences you have in your childhood governs how you see yourself and how you show up. In marriage counseling, you would be amazed how many people are in great marriages sabotaging themselves. And now it becomes this this elephant in the relationship because you'll have one spouse who genuinely loves you saying, I don't know what else to do. I have one husband that says to me, I wish there was a day I could come home and she's not depressed. He says, I don't know what else to do because I have done everything. I have anything she wants, anything she like, and I don't know what else to do. And so it will drastically affect your relationship, how you show up in that relationship. And again, this is why I encourage persons. If you are single, use that time to work on you. Use the time before you get into a relationship. Because if you don't, and this is a quote, if you don't fix what has cut you, you're going to bleed on people that didn't cut you. So a lot of times people come into relationship with all this baggage from childhood and past experiences, and we dump it here. And then we develop the victim mentality. And you're always a victim. Everybody in the world has been so wrong and has treated you so wrong, and you take no responsibility for your actions or the role that you need to play in your own healing. And Sheryl, we could talk and we could have all these webinars and we could give you step by step by step by step of what to do. But until you take action, you're going to stay in the same place.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Damn. That's deep. Thank you for sharing, but so true. That childhood experience is so real, and we are going to continue, Dawn, to bring awareness. We're
Yes.
going to continue to bring awareness so that individuals will start normalizing counseling. And I love what you
Yes.
had said on one of the last episode where we've had this stigma in counseling, that it is just for crazy people.
Right.
Something is it's medically wrong with me, and so on and so forth. And while some of that may be the case, generally speaking, counseling, and you had put it away, is it, how did you
It's a gift. It's a
word
gift that
it,
you give to
for
yourself.
yourself, to
Right. Therapy.
bring self-awareness, right?
Yes. Yes.
Self-awareness, you
Yes.
find out who you are
Absolutely.
and why you do
Sheryl,
the things you do.
when you know who you are, the world bows to your command. Trust me on that one.
Yeah.
Is are we willing to do the work that it takes to get to that place?
Right.
And we live in this microwave
Right.
society where everybody wants everything quick. Just I remember telling somebody one time, I am unable to burst your hand and put the skill in it. This was in a makeup class. You can't only practice when you come to class. You have to do the work.
Right.
Healing hurts. Healing
Right.
hurts. Becoming better hurts. Success hurts because it's lonely. And you're going to have to get rid of some people along the way to success. And it hurts. And many people don't want to deal with that. So, what we do, we step back and we shrink smaller than we truly are.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And so, guys, again, if you're listening, man, make sure that you share this with, friends and families that need to hear this information, right? They may be going through some, unfamiliar experience, and you're wondering what's wrong, and they may be even wondering what's wrong. It could very well be some deep rooted childhood
Yeah.
experiences that they have not yet dealt with in order to control it, minimize it, and even overcome it. So go ahead and seek that counseling, and not just counseling. If you're not yet ready for counseling, the world is your resource, right? There's YouTube, there's Google. Start practicing and start participating in your own rescue, so to speak. Like Dawn says, do the work, become better, set yourself to be, the best version of yourself. And it's all about personal development. So, Dawn, we're going to close this out with maybe you can share with us how we can reframe negative thoughts. So, in other words, let's just say they're not yet ready to go to counseling, but they're aware that based on the information that we just shared, there's some underlying imposter syndrome that's going on in their lives. How can individual start by, minimizing it, or at least become aware of it and control it?
The first thing I would say is start with a list. Start with a list of the things that you know you're good at. Start with a list of the things that you studied. Ask friends and family, what do you think I'm good at? And celebrate those things. Start celebrating the small wins. So every time a negative voice may come, as human beings, we have the ability to shift that mindset. If it means you need to write post it and paste them all over your house to say, I'm an amazing teacher, I help students become their best, whatever your profession is, whatever it is that you do, then start right there. And here's a little book that I'm going to recommend. People can just, you can listen to it 2 hours, listen to it on YouTube. It is free. And that is The Game of Life and How to Play It. Um, that little book has become a staple in my readings, which means it is also beside, I have the physical book, it is beside my Bible. I'm always going back to The Game of Life and How to Play It. Simple little disciplines about how we can shift the way we see ourselves. And what did our creator say about us? I think that's also something that is missing. Who do you are? Who are you? Who does the creator say you are? And walk in that, what
Yeah.
start there. Start
Yeah.
with making the list. Look at the things that you're good at, and even write down the things you're not good at, and be brutally honest with yourself. If you're
Yes.
not a great speaker, just put that you're not a great speaker. If you don't like to wake up in the mornings, I don't like to wake up in the mornings. If you don't like to read, I don't like to read. So that we can find substitute for these things. If you don't, what I do now when I go walking for 2 miles. That's at least an hour back and forth. So you know what I do? I listen to audiobooks while I'm walking. So if I don't get to pick up a book for the rest of the day, I would have already given my brain some positive words for the day. So let us just become more intentional about becoming better, living our best lives, and being our authentic.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I'll put that book in the show notes. So thank you for sharing. And yes, definitely. I love what you just mentioned. Write down your strength. I think it's an analysis, right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And there's a few other things that it goes into. What is your environment like, because that does play a role as well. What is
Yes,
it doing to you, right? What are my
yes,
strengths? And own it. Own your strength, and you can even continue to excel in those areas. What are my weaknesses?
yeah,
And do I like this? Like the way you just mentioned, one of my weaknesses, as you mentioned, could be I don't like to read. But so don't just leave it there, right? I would love to read though. I would love the knowledge. Maybe, okay, if I don't like to read, but then you could say, but I would love to gain more knowledge. What
right.
can I do instead of reading? And we all know there's audibles, right?
Mhm.
Audiobooks, or just
This
watch
podcast,
YouTube, correct?
right?
Watch
There are things like
podcasts,
these. Yeah,
YouTube videos to gain knowledge, right? You don't have to just stop at, I don't like to read, therefore I won't gain any knowledge and things like that. So, um, some of the things that I wrote down, the negative thinking, that self talk is very real, and we all have them. We have to become more aware of them, and push back against them. Question
yeah,
the negative
yeah.
thought. Is this truth though? Right? For example, when it says you're a fraud or this is a fraud, really, is that true? And find the ways, like Dawn mentioned, when you write down the things you're good at, you can then go back and say, see, this is not fraud because I'm good at this, I did that, I have this skill, right? Push back on it instead of thinking this is so uncomfortable, which is what life is all about, right?
Oh
Always
yes,
trying to keep us in our
life
comfort
be life
zone.
in.
Yeah, we have to say, I'm expanding my capacity. I love the way
Oh
you
yeah,
had said earlier that, failure is just the many roads to success. And when you are starting over, you're not starting from the beginning, you're starting from experience. So we
hmm,
all have to learn to step out of our comfort zone. And how do we do that? Simply by taking action.
yes, yes. And you don't have to do it alone. This is the thing I want to remind people. You don't have to do this alone. So if you can't afford therapy right now, let's say that's your genuine case, which I think everybody can afford therapy because we put our money to things that we value, right? But in case you can't, ask your friend, hold me accountable to this. This is what I'm going to be doing. So hold me accountable to this. Or ask somebody, hey, I want to start reading more. Can you read with me? Join a book club. There's so many book clubs out there right now,
Absolutely.
right? So you don't
No
have to
excuses.
do all of this alone. There's no excuse right now.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
absolutely no excuse.
Yeah. Well, that is the information that we wanted to share with you today, guys. We definitely want to thank our beloved psychologist again, Dawn Smith, for being in the room with us as usual, sharing her expertise and her knowledge. Listen, again, if you find this information valuable, be sure to subscribe to the channel and also share this information with a friend or two so that we can continue to bring awareness to situations and topics like these so that we can continue in our pursuit to become the best version of ourselves. Don, before we go, share with us a little bit. What are you up to? Where can we find you? And yeah,
Okay, thank you for that. So it is soulfulserenityja.com, and I'm sure you will put that link
in the notes, yes,
there, right? So
yes.
persons can actually just click on the link and book a session for therapy. And again, therapy doesn't mean you're broken, or it just means, look, you need help navigating some situations. That's all. So give yourself that gift. And September 27 in Jamaica, we are having a 1 day wellness retreat, which I'm very excited about. The last one was sold out quickly. So, guys, especially for persons who are already in Jamaica and want to attend, again, the link is Sheryll will put the link,
Yep.
right? You will see that. Register early, do it with a friend, bring a friend, if bring a husband, bring a wife. If you have teenage
Bring your daughters
children,
or your
right,
kids, your
right.
teenage kids.
Right. Let us do this together. And I'm very, very excited for that. And just what is happening within the community, because communities are necessary. We need communities to thrive. That's it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dawn, for your time. I'm looking forward to you being back here again next week. We will continue topics, guys, regarding entrepreneurship, right? Becoming more confident and understanding that you don't really just have to, do the regular 9 to 5 job. If you desire that, right, that's
Yeah,
great. Become
yeah,
the
yeah.
best version of that, excel in your career. But should you also decide to create, side hustles, we call them, but, a business, become a business owner and just start, becoming the best version of yourself, then you definitely want to stay tuned for the next episode. Dawn will be here with me and we'll be talking more about topics like these. So until then, bye for now. Bye, Dawn. Thank you so much for your time.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you for watching.